Matthew just goes right into, who has ears to hear, let him hear. Mark, however, says, and he said to them, he that has ears to hear, let him hear. So a little introductory phrase. Luke is a little bit longer with that introductory phrase. And when he had said these things, he cried, he that has ears to hear, let him hear. So I'm definitely going to put something first, because there's something in Mark and Luke. And he said to them. And when he had said these things to them, I could say, and when he from both. Oh, look, he is not capitalized in Luke. They made a mistake. Had from Luke, said from both, these things from Luke, to them from Mark, he cried. Okay, that'll work. So this and from Mark and Luke, when from Luke only, he from both, had from Luke, had said to them these things. So these things is Luke only. Mark, to them, and when he had said these things to them, he cried. Yeah, he cried. This is Luke only. He cried. He that has ears to hear. Mark, he that has ears to hear. Matthew says, who has ears to hear? I'm going to go with he that has. That's a majority witness. Mark, Luke, he that now from all three has ears to hear, let him hear. Mark, let him hear. Luke, let him hear. Okay. Let him hear. After this, Matthew goes into his explanation. And the disciples came and said to him, why speak you to them in parables? He gives the explanation. Then after the explanation it says, another parable put he forth to them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man which sowed good seed in the field, but while the man slept, his enemy came and sowed tares. So I'm going to put that. It's not in Mark. Just goes right into a very long explanation. No parable of the tares. Luke goes into, and his disciples asked him, saying, what might this parable be? He gives the explanation. Long explanation. Other parables included. And no parable of the tares. So I am going to, as I said, skip the explanation for now. Put the other parable here, because he's still in the boat. He's not alone yet, and I'm only going to have him dismiss the crowd once, not have him dismiss the crowd, and then that same day they come back, he gives another parable, then dismiss the crowd again, so that he's alone again to give the explanation to the disciples again. Much more simple if I just do it this way. So now I'm going to skip all the way to verse 24. Matthew only. Actually, this whole section is going to be Matthew only, but these words are in black because it's the introduction. Another parable put he forth to them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened to a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. Let both grow together until the harvest. In the time of harvest, gather you together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. I know that the question that Jesus asks, to what is the kingdom of God like, and whereto shall I resemble it, from Luke, immediately precedes the answer from Matthew and Mark. However, in that section with Matthew and Mark, that's not the first time he's talking about what the kingdom of heaven is like. Just before that, he mentions that the kingdom of heaven is likened to a man which sowed good seed in his field. So, just because he has another example of what the kingdom of heaven is like before that, I think I want to move the question from Luke, even though it is right before this comparison, I want to move that question before the other comparison, which is only in Matthew. In another parable he put forth to them, saying, to what is the kingdom of God like, and whereto shall we compare it? That I'm going to put right before this answer. The kingdom of heaven is likened to a man which sowed good seed in the field. But I'm just going to leave this statement here from Matthew and add everything from Matthew and Mark. Even though Mark seems like it might come after, mixed with Matthew with a grain of mustard seed. I'll put it up here before both. And he said, oh, look at that. I'm going to leave out and, because I use another parable. And instead of said, I'll put saying from Matthew. So only he is both. Actually, before the kingdom, I'm going to put this question, whereto shall we liken the kingdom of God? Or with what comparison shall we compare it? And then instead of having it is like in Mark, also because it is in italics, I'll put in from Matthew, the kingdom of heaven is like. That way it'll destroy anyone who thinks that the kingdom of heaven is different from the kingdom of God, because it's talking about the exact same thing. He's saying it's like a grain of mustard seed. You really can't get around it with this parable. So this is now Mark. I'll have the question first. Whereto shall we liken the kingdom of God, or with what comparison shall we compare it? Matthew and Mark, like a grain of mustard seed, another parable he put forth to them. Luke begins, then said he. So I could put he from all three. But the rest, then said, then is not anywhere. Said is not anywhere. It's saying. So I'll just leave out that. To what is the kingdom of God like? Whereto shall we liken the kingdom of God? Mark has it one way. Whereto shall we liken the kingdom of God? Matthew has it a different way. He just goes right into the kingdom of God is like. To what is the kingdom of God like? Whereto shall I resemble it? Whereto shall we liken? So, should I have it the way Mark has it or the way Luke has it? Whereto shall I resemble it after? I like the way Luke has it more. Mark says, with what comparison shall we compare it? He's just repeating yourself now. Whereto shall we liken the kingdom of God? That sounds like a follow-up question to the first, which was not mentioned in Mark. The first question should be what Luke has. To what is the kingdom of God like? What's heaven like? Or what's the kingdom of God like? Then you'd ask the follow-up question, what should we compare it to? I like the way Luke has it. To what is the kingdom of God like? To what is the kingdom of God like? To what is the kingdom? That's both Luke and Mark. Like is. To what is the kingdom of God like? That's the first question. I don't want to have the first comparison there, or with what comparison shall we compare it? That's annoying. I know they're both there in Mark. I think now, even though, or what shall we compare it makes more sense, I already have what is the kingdom of like in the first part of the question, so I think where to could fit here. Yeah, it's better than having the word compare or comparison twice. So this is now Luke only. And I could say where to is both Mark and Luke. And Jesus is saying, whereto shall I resemble it? That doesn't quite make sense today. Jesus doesn't resemble the kingdom. He's bringing the kingdom. So I think it's better to have we. But shall is both we. I think it's better, and whereto shall I compare it? Yeah. Resemble, you would say this resembles that, but Jesus says, I resemble it in Luke. And if I just exchange that, Jesus would be saying, or with what comparison shall we resemble it? It still sounds like Jesus is saying, we can resemble the kingdom of God. We can look like the kingdom of God. That's not what he's saying. He is saying compare. I think that's a better word for what he's getting across here. So I want that to be compare. It is both. If I could change the way the word resemble was written, it'd be perfect to exchange that with comparison. Or with what resemblance shall we compare it? What would resemble heaven that we can compare it? I don't think it fits as we resemble it. Or with what resemblance. That would be perfect. Maybe if I just leave out the word comparison. Or with what shall we compare it? That seems easy to understand. To what? I could say what is from the second half of the verse in Mark. Or with what comparison shall we compare it? Yeah, I guess I could.